Hello, thank you for joining me, Aggie Hall, on this beautiful hot Saturday. I know, luckily, I don't think there's any rain in my forecast because we're in hurricane season, as you know, and that's why we're on here again to talk about this nightmare that's about to supposedly happen. Because they've been saying it's supposed to be the worst season ever, but I think they say that every year, don't you?
They do. And Colleen, thanks for having me on. And the
Thank you.
reason why this year is so much more volatile is because Mother Nature has many more darts to shoot at you. So imagine being blindfolded, and each hurricane season, she has so many darts and she throws them and they end up wherever they at. But this year, she has a lot more darts, and that's why it's more dangerous. So that's why it's more emphasized to prepare.
Yeah, is it because of the heat? Because we've had like extreme heat?
Yep.
Is that the reason? Okay.
I'm no
Wow.
meteorologist, but it's the heat and just everything kind of happening together. So,
Yeah, I know it has been abnormally hot, but I think at last year at this time it was abnormally hot because I remember early June my air conditioner broke and it was like a part that was on warranty and it was back ordered and it took
oh,
3 weeks. So I had to buy like a portable unit so I could sleep downstairs. But yeah, so I'm hoping to God it's not what they think it is because I'm not ready for that.
we're going to talk
The
about some preparation this podcast today. We'll be good.
Yeah, so when they say hurricane season, it runs 6 months, like June
Uh-huh.
1st to the end of November. So, what are some things that people can do, basic things that the typical person can do right now to start preparing?
So preparing is actually get all the essentials that people scramble for when there's a hurricane coming. So
Yeah.
right now we're in a great time now until the June 14th. There's a tax holiday, and Colleen can share that tax holiday cheat sheet. But it's basically everything from like $10 to $100 you can get tax credit. But the essentials like batteries, toilet paper, pet food, even I believe plywood. You just have to ask Home Depot, which of those items are tax free. If not, even if it isn't tax free, just get it now because you have it ready to go in your home. Because over time, plywood will rot if you just kind of keep it around the backyard. But those essentials right now, but also start walking around your house. You don't have to be a GC to know. Just mindfully check off all your home with the windows, screens, and just kind of like touch them and see if they're cut or ripped. You want to have that repaired, and also start taking photos of the outside exterior of your home. Also, any gnomes you might have, you're gonna have to put them away because they're gonna become like missiles if a hurricane comes. Things like that because I've seen
Yes.
those gnomes in a neighbor's yard across the street. So just things like that. And if you have a pool, consider either getting a cover or if no cover, you're going to be prepared for washing and cleaning, filtering them out. All your patio furniture inside, everything that could be really fragile, just have it wrapped up. Get those plastic bins. Grandma's urn, make sure she's wrapped up and ready to go because things can shake and fall over. It's just those little things that people kind of neglect because they don't know. They just kind of forget. And also, if you were to have water come in your house, what's the worst that can happen? The flooring has to be redone, some cabinets, but anything else that might have to. Oh, know how to turn off your circuit breakers, know how to turn off water. If people, kind of play home inspector and don't know these things, they could, even put a flood in their home before even a catastrophe happens. So just stuff like that. Your toilets, don't throw baby wipes in the toilets. I'm not a plumber, but I just know that. So it's all flowing good and everything's working a little bit beyond roofing for me, but roof,
Yes.
just I'm going to take care of that. Or you're going to find somebody that, maybe as far as a roofer, get those photos, and you have to have those pre-storm hurricane photos and proof because if anything ever were to happen, at least you have those photos. Maybe I threw a little bit too much, but
But no, but those
we
great, a
can
lot
put
of
it in a checklist.
the more the better. But I think, like you said, it's a good time to go outside and just do like a walkthrough of your outside of your home. Get your cell phone, take some videos, take some pictures because it's all going to be dated. And like I always tell people, the more documentation you have, the better because, the insurance companies are, sometimes a little bit crazy and just like people. And so they may say, oh, this was there before, but if you can document and show proof of the condition of your home and your roof, the outside before something happens, it's so much better for you. And as you mentioned, it'd be a good time to get a roof inspection done, either by a home inspector or a roofer to give you a condition. So you have a status of your roof going into the hurricane season, because a lot of people, well, most people don't do maintenance, on their roofs. They're like, oh, the shingles are there, they're gonna last forever. It's no, nothing's lifetime. You have to get it checked out and maintained, because there may be something up there that you don't see. There may have been an animal digging a hole or a tree limb that fell and hit it or something like that. So that's great advice. So, um, and the supplies, which the most of the stuff are tax free. So they're not charging the tax when you purchase them, right? It's at the purchase point.
Yep.
Okay.
And also,
Good.
if you do check out and they forget, just, be mindful of that, because sometimes the clerk doesn't know, and their system didn't catch up. Most of the Lowe's and Home Depots are updated, but it could be a glitch. Just keep in mind of that. And also, I
And it
believe
was.
stores can reimburse you if you just bring the receipt in.
Right, if it was mistakenly charged, and like you said, the water, get your water, because I remember during like Hurricane Irma, my sister was panicking. She was waking up at like 4 in the morning to go buy water, and she was found like, water at, Wawa or something. She was panicked, and I'm like, well, how much water do you think you need? She's like, I may have to shower with it. You don't know, but it's true. Start filling up, those gallon bottles and save it, because it will still be good for you later on. And you can clean with it, give your dogs and cats fresh water, drink and eat, and if you need to brush your teeth or something. But yeah, it's good advice, but it's scary. I think a lot of people would rather panic closer to the time of the storm, because it's less for them to have to like worry about. But if you prepare ahead of time, you don't have to worry, because we do live in Florida. This is going to happen again and again and
Yeah.
again. And I know you sent me an article, so which I do
Yes.
want to share. And it is about the companies, which they've been doing this, insurance companies and
For you.
roofing for years. Satellite technology, and they also fly drones over the homes to get a view, like a eagle eye view or whatever they call it, that like the general public can't see. But what are they exactly looking for when they do that?
Well, this video was shared with me today on Facebook by my good friend Tom Dring from Eagle View, and they're mentioned in the NBC News article and YouTube video. In this particular case, yes, insurance carriers will send their drones or satellite imagery over your home. And for a lot of people, they feel it's an invasion of privacy. But if a homeowner now puts themselves in the insurer's shoes, it's actually a property they're insuring. So technically, they have invested interest in your home. And if you come to terms with that, you realize, okay, that's what they're doing. I'm going to now stop having the anxiety, or a lot of homeowners get offended. They feel like they're rejected when these issues come out. But what their insurance companies are doing is really just giving you a heads up that either when they say they don't like something, or don't or call it dirty or something, the imagery isn't it's kind of far away, because they can't be right over your roof.
Correct.
So they're looking for is for you to rectify it, because here's the thing: you can be mad and switch insurance companies, but it's going to happen with the next carrier. So let's get educated. Okay, dirtiness. This is where, even if you have a brand new home, brand new roof done 1 or 2 years ago, it's still mindful to have even a power soft wash done
Hmm.
to your home, and to clean off any leaves or dirt, because, and I corrected myself, because a soft wash is recommended just in case you have a certain roof that's collecting these debris items, and you want to have that washed off, because a couple things: it's going to prevent any algae growth, also any critters having a home in there, and also potentially that decking becoming waterlogged from that debris. So when you have a cleaned off roof, they're not going to call you dirty or anything crazy on it. Especially have those pipes, jacks, and boots checked out, caulking between the 2 and 5 year mark, because roofs get crispy from the heat, and just the constant rain drying out heat. So those little the caulking around all those things get dried out, cracked, and the water comes through, even if the roof's 2 to 5 years old. And this is where hiring a roofing company that can come out and rectify that for you is huge. And then when it comes to the roof, things like solar is going to have to get checked out. If you've invested in that, you're going to have to invest in the maintenance of it. It's almost like buying a Lexus, and they come with the full factory warranty and maintenance, but at some point they stop it, right? And then you're on your own. So that's just one of those mindful, just because you put the roof on doesn't mean you're not maintaining it, because I see people maintenance their beautiful cars more than their asset on their home. So it just checks and balances. And then once you do that, there's no misunderstanding. You have the report, the receipts, and that person's taking photos. You'll literally be off the radar and be left alone and have insurance greatness. I mean, and then if there's ever a claim, you have beautiful photos taken and just an act of God happened. And that's why we have insurance, for the act of God purposes. So,
Right,
and
right.
come
And
in
that's
and
the
help with
reminder.
that. So
And that's the reminder, it's not maintenance. And I think what you said is great. Like, people maintain their cars more than their house. You maintain your car, you keep all the oil change records, tire, everything in your glove box, right? So when you
yeah,
have an issue, it's all there. I've done it. But people aren't doing the same with their homes. And I know what you're talking about, the insurance letters, because I get the insurance inspections
yeah,
on just about every property that's done. Even new homes, there's an issue. Oh, this is missing this,
yeah,
doing it, as you said, they have an interest in your property. They don't have an insurable interest, but they have an additional interest because you've paid them to insure your home in case something happens to it. So they have the right to go out there and look at it and inspect. And you be damn sure they're expecting every property that they insure, residential and commercial, because they have to look for hazards, not only property wise, but liability wise. And because this is a business, so they're going to try to maintain as much as they can to prevent losses from happening that are preventable. Now, all losses aren't preventable, but we can do the best we can. And that's all we ask of, the typical public, is just doing the best you can
that's
as a homeowner, as a patron, just do the best you can. And then we shouldn't be in these positions that we're in with, legal battles for roofs, et cetera, in our state, and the insurance crisis. Now, solar panels. You mentioned that. I have them, and I feel I wasn't given information about them. So you mentioned servicing them. What do we have to do to service them?
gosh, there are, I believe there's the DBPR is coming, either came out with a way to vet solar companies and maintenance in them. And I was at the FRSA yesterday, the DBPR was there, and she said that Tallahassee's coming out with like a potential, suggestion of, who to reach out to. But in the meantime, it's beyond the Google search. It's really, checking in with the DBPR to make sure that, and it even goes with roofing too, that the person that you're hiring to maintenance or even install is in good shape with the DBPR. Because here's a kicker for homeowners when they shop Google or maybe BBB. Unfortunately, the BBB is a glorified review center. So you can be A plus, but rated, but if you don't pay to get accredited, then you're, in their eyes, it doesn't count. But it's still good to have good reviews. But then there are people with good reviews or accreditation with the BBB, but they're in horrible condition with the DBPR. I would be more concerned with the DBPR than with the BBB, honestly. So that's
Right.
why just vetting your solar company, because then they're going to be around, they're going to service it. And then if there's after a storm, at least keep in mind, there might be a while before they come back, but at least they'll be able to detach, reset, so you can redo your roof. Because I don't know, if the roof gets destructed, then the solar panels most likely will. So you'll have to get, besides a detach, reset, just new solar panels and make sure those solar panels are insured. I can't stress enough that people get solar, don't let their insurance carrier know, and then they find out later from those drones, and you get potentially denied coverage because they didn't chime in and let the insurance company know.
Yeah, because they add value to your home.
It could potentially
Yes,
your insurance. That's
correct.
not my
I mean,
job.
there are, because I have heard that as an agent, some people are saying, oh, these companies won't take solar panels. None of the companies I work with have an issue with them, but I know they do add value to your house because
Oh,
they're
yeah,
expensive and it's permanently attached.
correct.
So with that being said, I know they're permanently attached, but I guess they could receive damage just like your roof during a hurricane or any type of storm, hail, any type of tornado or storm, anything that gets contact with them. Like if a large tree limb falls on them, they could become
Well,
damaged.
they can become damaged, but guess what? Sometimes the solar panels are a blessing because it's almost like a shield on your roof, and they hit the
Okay.
solar panels. So the solar panels are trash, but actually save the roof from getting totally trashed. So I've seen that happen. So I mean,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, the way that these solar panels are, like, I mean, they're all not critical, but some of the ones that I've seen, like they're almost like this thick, very thick layer of metal and the visor on it, and the tree falls on it. It just what obviously the way it fell over, but it just spared the roof from really destruction. So they actually could be a really positive too, and especially in hail situations that they cover a lot of ground, so they just bounce off.
oh, so they could be beneficial and they do provide somewhat of a savings, for your electricity, especially when it being so hot. So I feel like in some aspects they have good and bad points, just like anything in
Can I give a
today's.
tip on the maybe on the heat of your house? You don't have to get solar panels to reduce your the AC bill. Another thing that's overlooked is, again, who you hire. The roofing company, some of the roofing companies that are on the low end side, low estimates, they really disqualify the ventilation. They don't put enough of it in, and that roof is just cooking. The right
Oh,
ventilation will make a huge difference. That roof's ventilated correctly, then the air can flow correctly out, giving room and to breathe underneath. So it's not cooking on both sides, because the shingle will deteriorate much faster and people get upset that they don't last. It goes back to another big thing, which is the ventilation. And that's a free inspection that you can get from us and a good roofer too.
oh wow, ventilation. And I have heard people putting like some type of vent or fans within their attic, like an attic fan, something
What
that's automatic. I
they're
had,
some of them are built into the ventilation. Yeah, so but also depends on the way that your roof's structured, because certain roofs can benefit or will not benefit from that. It's a whole like engineering thing. So we just have to look inside the attic. Sounds like, it is a little science and physics, but it just all has
right.
to be correct. That's all.
But those are good tips and good advices to help people in, today's day and age with the cost of inflation, the cost of roofs and,
Yep.
maintaining a home. And I think people have to be prepared. And I was having a conversation with a potential client yesterday who's called me a couple times to get advice on his roof situation. He had a potential claim that was denied from a storm, I guess this past April, which I wasn't really aware of what storm that happened in April, but he put a claim in and the roof is old and they had told him that the roof was manipulated, meaning the shingles were moved. Um, Potentially ripped off or something. And what I thought is going back to when I had my roof inspection and I needed a new roof and the person was up there showing me, Colleen, look, these shingles just come right off. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, and it's not just like this here. It was pretty much like that everywhere. So I told the client, do you think it was when they were showing it to you this? And he's like, I don't know. But the insurance company disqualified the claim. They said it was, normal wear and tear, and that there was potentially issues and spots where maybe it was, manually manipulated. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting wording. But I left him in a conversation where I said, well, what are you going to do? You brought a claim to the insurance company. Now you have to get your roof fixed. It needs to be fixed, even if it's not covered by the insurance. And I think a lot of people, and he like wasn't prepared to hear that, but I was telling him, I'm just being honest with you, that you're going to have to get it fixed. I can help you with an insurance policy either way, but it's expensive regardless.
Yeah.
And you need to get this roof done. So I mentioned that they have, I know, grants and there's waiting lists for some of these programs to help people maybe potentially get upgrades to their home at a lower price or help them get a grant to do it. Do you know anything about that program?
The My Safe Florida Home Program is opening up July, but I suggest everybody at least try logging on and checking it out, but also be patient when you get to that website, because the month of July is dedicated to the homeowners that make below 45,000 in the low income bracket. August really opens up to like the rest of the world that makes above that. But be patient and apply for it, because that $10,000 grant, which is free, will go, can only go towards a home improvement to better the home, such as the roof or windows. Every single penny has to be used towards that. It cannot be inflated or used for vacations, because it will come after you. Otherwise, it's also open to all contractors that follow the DBPR rules. So the roofing company would submit the same kind of paperwork like they would for like a claim, but in this case, instead of a claim, they're giving the photos, report, and estimate for their grant purposes. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
but I think now the homeowners coming into this new era, especially with the real estate market having a shift. I have my real estate license. The American dream is now going to include you, homeowner, getting more involved in the maintenance and upkeep of this home. I think over the years, we've had a lot of people transiently, either by moving for work, or just want to explore real estate elsewhere. They would be in a home for 2 or 3 years, flip out, and then go away, and then it happens to the next one, and then like no one kind of does the maintenance, and they shift it to the next person until that one person gets in there that's kind of stuck with it. And this is where in the real estate market, your realtors don't, it's not their job to tell you about the upkeep. It's now more so ever than you researching what you're getting yourself into, whether that be a $120,000 home or a $1 million home. So they're all going to require different maintenance, and you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, they do. They have to be aware that they got to maintain it. And, and insurance, if people, I know that an insurance carrier underwriter, mentioned this to me like 5 years ago, over 5 maybe. She's like, well, if people are going to keep using the policy like a maintenance plan, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have the average price of insurance being $4,300. That's the average. So when I give people quotes that are below that, and they, balk, I'm like, I get it. It's high, but the average price of insurance is this. So if we can get you below that rate, we're below the average rate. And if we can get people to start like realizing that eventually they're going to have a graduated roof schedule where they basically pay out of a roof claim based on the age of the roof. And then it's going to help like incorporate and bringing like people in your industry in roofing, real estate, contracting, other means of ways to educate people and make them understand that, with your house, your roof is what protects it and what is coating it and covering it. So that's something that you're going to have to start looking into to maintain it, update it, inspect it, and make sure that you're, realizing at some point you're going to have to replace it. So you may start having to find a way to put money aside or something to do that, just like you do for your cars and your kids' college, unfortunately. It's a big, owning a home is like the never ending American dream. It just never keeps ending. It's always something you have to pay for.
It's worth it. It's
It's
your home.
worth it. It's your home. It's where you live. It's like your body. You got to treat it well. It will last you forever, and it's an investment.
Yes.
So, yeah. And so after the storm, like if there's a hurricane that comes in 2 months from now, because we're not going to do it right now, it's too early, but in 2 months, a big hurricane comes. What would you say is the best piece of advice after the storm? I mean, obviously when it's safe, what would you say is the best piece of advice for somebody to do? Like to go outside and inspect their house or?
Um, After a storm, if they're still in the home versus evacuate and come back, is just use common sense, because the TV or your local newscaster will tell you to stay home, but people kind of do their own thing. But they, venture out, and, obviously if the storm has died down, you can open your door and go outside and kind of see what's going on. And the first thing to do is just to really just do a 360-degree walk around, just see what happened. Because if there's something on your roof that's, leaking into the house, the worst thing that you can do is go up on a ladder and try to stop it. I mean, you could
Oh
actually
gosh.
hurt yourself, So what will happen is there's going to be a flood of phone calls into all the local roofing companies. but then you'll have your out of staters come in and start flooding the neighborhood. So this is where, before anyone hits your street, just, kind of check on each other too, the neighbors, and make sure they're okay. And, make sure that the, you know where your shut off valve is for the water. Because don't forget, we got the after hurricane surge. That's a real thing that's happened, where the hurricane goes away, but then the water's coming in. So be mindful of that surge, depending on where you live, obviously beachside. But then if you're evacuating coming in, be patient, because you got the traffic to come in and you want to get home, you want to speed. So you don't want to get a ticket or get into an accident. Because whatever happened to your home, if you've left and you're going to come home, it's going to be there. And again, one of those 360-degree walking, take photos, and that's all you can do. And then go in the house and just start every single room doing a checklist of everything. That's it.
Doing a checklist, making sure it's safe, take your pictures,
Yeah.
and all of that, so it's timelined. And another thing that people can do right now is make sure their trees and their vegetation is cut back from the homes, because the trees are like the main thing. That storm that happened the other day, there was tree limbs and stuff everywhere, and it wasn't even a tornado. I mean, I know there was tornado warning, so there may have been strong enough winds at some point to be a tornado, but it was a thunderstorm, which is the summer, which we're going to start having a lot of in the coming months due to the heat. So people can start trimming those trees, getting a company out, a contractor, landscaping companies, to come make sure that's done. And then help them move in their patio furniture and stuff that's outside, because sometimes, you don't have enough time to move it in. So now maybe would be a good time to start thinking about where you're going to put it in the event, like we do have to prepare for a large hurricane.
Yes.
What do you think about sandbags, like in the middle? Do you think it's good to have those on hand?
I just think, and that comes with the hurricane prep. I think having sandbags any time of the year is a great idea. Anything that you can help prevent, especially that garage door.
Yes.
The way you put, like, plastic or synthetic down, like the roofing synthetic, and put it against the wall. Put the sandbags down, and then also on the inside. It just has a double way of preventing water. It will slow it down, basically. Okay. Water will get into the sides and seeps, but you're at least slowing it down. And also the front door, those windows, this is where those windows need to get checked. I can't tell you how many people thought there was a roof leak and it was a window leak. So
Window,
windows,
yes.
they get crispy and crusty after a couple, 5 to 10, I'm sorry, 10 years. So 10 years, that caulking. So just make sure those windows get checked out, front door as well. Between dogs coming in and out the front door and people, slamming it, that sheeting inside the doorway, or the little rubber thing. I don't know, because I'm not a door person. It gets worn out. It's great to redo those now. Again, preventing even the AC from coming out, huge difference. That can even reduce the AC bill just a little bit, but it does help. And also those the water on hand, because there might be a water warning about, like, not being able to use the water for a while. So having that extra water when they tell you water, is a good idea.
Yeah, the extra water and the prescriptions. I know we had talked about that. Which I just checked mine, I'm running out of one. So it's a good time to have like a couple weeks of your prescriptions on hand, get an extra prescription, because right now I feel like the pharmacies are running behind, even on a regular prescription that you get every 90 days, every month, they're behind. So imagine during a storm or a hurricane, it could disrupt the mail, it could disrupt people being able to go to work or having power, because sometimes we lose power around here for weeks. So if you have an extra couple weeks of your prescription on hand, and your doctors should be able to accommodate you for that. That's really a good
The doctor conversations now, see if you can get at least 2 weeks or a month's worth extra,
on
just for,
hand.
especially those on those life or death situations where they need, like, for diabetes or their heart condition.
Insulin and
You
heart,
definitely want to have
correct.
that, check on your elders, like, I come from a European family where, they have grandma living with you. So if they're, living in a retirement home, that's going to be, work going to see them and making sure they're okay. So, um,
Yeah, going
okay.
somewhere safe. And if somebody does have like a life-threatening, medical condition where they rely on an oxygen tank or something, you may want to make sure you go somewhere where the power is not going to go out unless you have a generator. But that's another thing we have to talk about, generators. I don't have one myself because the whole thing scares me unless I had like the one permanently installed to the house by like a contractor. But the whole thing with the gas and the noise, that's scary because every year we hear on the news, make sure you run your generators away from the home. And how many times do you hear there's an emergency where there's somebody had carbon monoxide poisoning from the generator being run in their garage or right next to their AC unit?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to say that generators are overrated, but most people have them and they run out of the fuel. They don't want
Right.
to get it. So here's a hack for you, everybody. It's 4th of July weekend coming up. And go buy Yetis or go buy a Yeti type, whatever brand you want, even a regular old school cooler. Buy a bunch of them and just have the ice on hand. And if it shuts off, at least you have it, shut the coolers and just have it in there. That's it. That's a hack for now. And
And you have
until
ice and
I,
go find some
I
place with,
realize that the ice does get, cool down, but you know what? It's a fighting chance to, at least have, because the refrigerator over time is going to start to, break down. And then, it's with the refrigerator, that's where you have those, do like an evaluation, like what do I really need? So, for eggs, I would boil eggs instead of having them raw. And that way you could just eat them as a snack and just kind of consolidate what's the necessity. Let's just be honest, like you don't need ketchup and mayonnaise. Okay, we're gonna stick with canned tuna, fish. We're gonna have chicken, peanut butter and jelly. You might
right.
have to, buy one of those army food packs, maybe a couple of them, and just kind of glamping in your house. That's the worst case scenario for a couple of days. Who knows? But
Right.
civilizations popping back up very quickly. I think after 2000, I wasn't here. 2004, they've evolved where they are now more equipped for that type of weather coming in.
Oh, yeah, because I was here in 2004 with the four hurricanes
Yeah.
that hit here sporadically around the whole state. And we, like each of them, I lost power at my house for like over a week. And I was in the middle of selling a house, moving. It was like, because nobody ever experienced this. They always said, oh, hurricane would come and it would kind of be like a threat. And, we had Hurricane Charlie in Miami, and then it didn't really hit us. And there was stuff maybe, touch and go. But when that thing came through here, Charlie, no one knew what to do. It was like a living nightmare. And, people were in their campers, but people were helping each other. I feel like now people would help each other more. But I feel like the power companies, they have it more like a system on hand. They start sending people here. A lot of places have the power lines underground. So yeah, underground, and which it does help a lot. So not as many people lose power, and if they do, it's not for as long. But rural areas, farther out, people that aren't underground, they do have some challenges because they're farther out, getting that out there, the repairs and such. What do you think about mobile homes and manufactured homes? I've been dealing a lot because the real estate market challenges, as you mentioned. So a lot of the affordable housing is going to modular manufactured homes,
Yeah.
even brand new ones. And I know, like they say, I'm supposed to go do a tour, so you may have to join me one time to check out the
Yeah.
roofs and stuff. So they are saying they're hurricane rated for like 160-mile-per-hour winds. Do you think they should still evacuate those in the middle of a hurricane warning?
Depends on where they are. If they are anywhere on the barrier island or anything within 1,500 1,500 feet from the ocean, honestly, the city will kick them out if they have to. I lived in Brevard County on Indian Harbor Beach, and you were given if you stay, you potentially are dead. So that
Oh,
was, oh yeah, it was a scary thing. So it was that bad. But otherwise, inland, I feel it's more safe. And again, your municipality will let you know if you can or cannot stay. But the mobile or manufactured homes have evolved since the 70s. I mean, now they honestly, Colleen, they look like beautiful homes, and you can't even tell they're even manufactured. You know,
It's
because the way they're setting them up, the way they set them on, you know, even with the blocks, there's a certain way they set them up where it's, you know, more solid, and then the utilities going up into the homes, and then you know, disconnecting them for safety, and again, knowing where the shut off valves are just will save you. If you leave, and you evacuate, you just shut everything down, lock it up, and disconnect, and you're good. You come back and just see what's there. But you know, that's where have the conversations with you about what am I covered with that mobile home if it gets totally destroyed. You know, what's covered, and then on the inside, what's covered. You know, because if it's totally gone, you know, what are you left with? You know, so that's where I'm saying, you know, a review of your home and like an inventory of what really means to me. Buy those plastic bins, put them in there, and go with you on your evacuation. You know, don't forget grandma's urn, you know, so.
Yes, I need to tell my dad about that. He's got my mom's urn like on and like
Yeah, no,
protected. Like you said, it could get shade, it could get if
yeah,
something blows in the window. But yeah, I think a lot of this stuff about in general, home maintenance, hurricane preparedness is is common sense, but I think a lot of people like forget about that. You know, they forget they're panicked and they forget about
yeah.
what happens. And there's, like you said, there's a lot of transient. So there's a lot of people from other states. And I always warn them when I get them on the phone and they're like, I'm from Kansas, I'm from Wyoming. I'm like, oh my God, why are you moving here? Number one, you're gonna hate the heat, but they're all excited. And then they go through the first hurricane and they are panicked. But I always tell them, like, there's always a calm after the storm, and we're built for this here. And it's as long as you walk away alive, everything else can be picked
Oh
up
yeah,
after.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
property managers and homeowners that are self-property managers should be having conversations with their renters because, to be honest, I mean, being in real estate or not, I've just seen that there's a certain amount of renters that it's not their house, they don't care. So you have to have conversations of, you know, what they're doing to the home because they're not going to really prepare to protect the home. They're renting. It's the homeowner's responsibility of preparing the home for those renters, you know, because you know, they're not going to pay rent after a while, you know, are you prepared for that? So I don't know because every circumstance is different. If they're
Right.
not evacuated, I mean, you know, I think we learned from COVID that, and especially now with DeSantis fixing the squatter problem, you know, even though it's not, doesn't involve roofing in this conversation, it's just mindful because, you know, anything happens to the home and the renter just doesn't tell you, forgets to, or doesn't care to, now you think everything's fine, but then weeks, months go by and it's deteriorated. And then the insurance can come back and say, well, you've neglected it because the renter, you know, just didn't know to check it, you know,
Right. And they don't
have
care.
conversations. I'm coming to check the home, you know, before,
Right. It's the same
oh,
thing. I told this is funny that you say that. I had a conversation with a couple of people, yes, one yesterday and one the day before, about as a landlord, you know, you have the responsibility to provide a healthy, safe
yeah,
home habitation for the person that's renting it. So if you're not checking on it, hire somebody to go check on it.
yeah,
Send a roofer out there to check on the roof. You're allowed to do that. Have a property manager. I mean, if you can't rely on the tenant to be honest and forthcoming because it's not their home, their priority is themselves and just making sure they pay the rent. But if they're not after a storm and it was an area that the storm came through, you need to send somebody over there to check it to make sure it looks okay. Just
yeah,
because what you said, the insurance company is going to come back and say, oh, why was this reported late? I mean, we have to tell them all the time. And I'm explaining, well, this person was out of town, they were sick, they were in the hospital, or the property was rented and their tenant never told them. But just take some initiative to go out there and take care of it yourself. Be
yeah,
proactive,
correct.
make a plan together.
I mean, honestly, like, I know, people watching this might be like, it's scary living in Florida, but to be honest, the perks of living here outweigh, this craziness because, you know, it's such a great
Yes,
state, you know, it's so patriotic and, you know, we don't have, state taxes. So, you know, there's a lot of more positives than negative, you know,
sure.
so if it's the cost of doing business living in paradise, I think it's worth it.
It's worth it. I've lived here basically my whole life. I don't want to live anywhere else except for the heat. It's so hot, but we're inside most of the day, or you're in the water, you're in the pool, but always And another thing, make sure you're wearing sunscreen if you're gonna be out here cleaning your yard. We don't want you to get a horrible
And a
sunburn.
hat.
And a hat. And if you see like an animal, do not go near it, because a lot of
No,
times
do not
after
find me.
you won't find me, but people, they'll come
Crickety,
out,
crickety.
turtles, alligators, snakes, they're shook up too. And the wild animals, just get away from them.
Yeah.
It's common sense, because you don't want to get hurt by something unnecessarily. And what is your best piece of advice for a homeowner right now? Navigating into hurricane season. I know we mentioned the inspections and stuff, but is there anything else that you want to give on the ending note here?
Gonna nail this conversation with a great suggestion. Have a policy review with you now, because if you can't afford your deductible and there's any damage, the probability of anybody waiving it is now more than ever not happening. And if they are, that roofing company is going to get in trouble and that homeowner could be going down with them. So if you can't afford it, let's have conversations of what you can or cannot afford. Can you finance it? Do you have the credit? What are you prepared for? Do you have a 401k? These conversations are real. And this is one of those where you have to evaluate what you can and cannot afford. Just really, because when the roofer or whoever, even restoration, is coming to ask for your deductible money, they're, and if they don't get paid and you or the homeowner can't afford it, I mean, the probability of a lien is there. I mean, they can lien your property. And
Right.
having these, people used to think no big deal. Oh, in Florida, it's a big deal. If it's on your home for too long, you have a probability of potentially losing it. So my point is just, and then people who are unfamiliar with this get upset and feel like all these contractors are the bad guys. It really
Yeah,
goes back to the policy review with you and see
understand.
the 2% versus 5% deductible, or whatever it is for hurricane. And that's it. It's
They
really,
need to understand that. And it's a conversation I have and that I explain over and over. I feel like I need to make a recording after like a storm, because they're saying, oh, that's what I have to pay. Yes. So your damage has to be greater than that. And then it's subtracted from what the damage payout is. And so you have to cover that. Regardless, and it's for the whole damage. So if it's just your roof, if you have other damages, they're going to combine it together. And it is illegal. I had a guy that asked me, oh, was that? I'm like, it's fraud. You have to pay the deductible. If anybody's saying they'll do some underhanded stuff, and get off my phone line, like, you don't do that. This is a state law. It's regulated. They're cracking down on people that are trying to waive that. But like you said, there's payment plans that they can do to pay that back. They can use a credit card, they can use a 401k, or they can start putting money aside. But they should be putting money aside to replace their whole roof, because we can't bank on a hurricane coming to replace our roof.
correct.
And it's the fact is that I hear people trying to get into houses, and they're trying to get this insurance and really like read it down, like take all the coverages off. Yesterday, there was a mortgage officer trying to get a lady a policy under $1,800, doable. And then she was asking about a $10,000 deductible. I'm saying this lady can't afford this house, but it's realizing and being like honest with people about and having them understand it. And it all starts with communication, that she probably shouldn't have bought that house, because if something happens, she's not going to be able to afford to fix it.
Correct. I mean, I'm hoping that mortgage lenders are more intelligent when it comes to that, because let's not forget the insurance. Let's also forget the taxes. Let's forget if there is an HOA, and also just regular upkeep, utility bills. So yeah,
Yeah.
if they're scraping in to get into that home, it would be wise to look at something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Common sense,
It's
you know.
communication.
I guess the cost of doing business to keep up with the Joneses, but what I've seen in roofing, to be honest, keeping up with the Joneses, even the Joneses are broke. So, just keep
Oh,
that.
they are, especially on those tile roofs, and there's
The
metal
most
roofs.
expensive homes, I can't tell you, like some of these people are just, when you give these roofs that are massive sizes, and their roofs are going to be anywhere from like 80 to 150,000 dollars, and then they get the quote because they don't understand how complex and the job
Right.
difficulty. I thought the roof was going to be 50, and I tell them I can't even buy materials for 50. So, but I'm more, the approach is more sensitive, and you break it down, and they will shop around. But now with those expensive home, the multi-million dollar homes, they're becoming more realistic to either downsize or downsize and move, or, that they will fork up the money for it. So nobody wants to buy, it's like tires. Nobody wants to buy it, but they will just have to do it.
Exactly. You need tires. That's another thing. That's a whole nother
Your roof is
conversation.
your tire, basically.
Your roof is your tires on your house.
I
So
know.
this is all great information, which after, hopefully we don't have any storms, but if we have a storm, I want to do another one with you about like how people can go about, repairing damages and such.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are always confused and they're always like frantic and very distraught after that happens. So
Oh, one more tip, because I know we're going to get going. So we're going to do the policy review, but also do your research now. Find 3 roofing companies. And of course, I'm going to say use Janney Roofing, but now find someone like a Janney, and then 2 others local that you vetted them. Because guess what? If there is any hurricane damage, you want to pick one of those 3. And I know some roofers are going to hate me, but to be honest, the ones that are not from local knocking on your door, they're going to slap your roof on and then leave, go back wherever they came from. So you're on your own to rectify it. If there's something wrong with it, most likely they won't come back, so keep that in mind. So find some 3 that you want to work with, because when they get super busy, at least you can call on the other 2 and, you have somebody.
you can get on the list and get your roof inspections now so you know the condition and how it could withstand and hold up in a storm.
Yeah.
And get all your supplies. Thank you for joining me again. So we're gonna hook up another meeting and I'm gonna share your articles and your links on
Awesome.
there, with the supply list. So thank you.
Enjoy. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Stay cool. Thank you. So thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe and be sure to leave a review as well. We appreciate it so much. Share as much as you can. Also, contact us directly if you would like to join as a guest. We're looking for any guest who wants to share either an inspiring story, a hobby, a travel that they've done, or their exciting career, or just to have a conversation about real life events. We're always open to that. We are planning episodes bi-weekly, so that's twice a month. We can accommodate you via Zoom or in person. Also, continue to follow us for updates on our socials. Facebook, it's Secured Insurance Group. On Instagram, it's Colleen Insurance Lady 22. This podcast was hosted by myself. Our podcast cover art was designed by Norma Pacheco, and the intro and the outro music is by Lounge Bar by Geronik. Goodbye and have a good day.